This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
And Tunde! What a goal! It's absolutely world class from Marcus Tunde!
Brentford against Jones. Get in!
Terrific goal! By Shella! Is there time for a winner? Is there? Josh Windus! Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week. This weekend sees our first game of the season against newly managerless Bristol City, with Sheffield Wednesday legend Nigel Pearson leaving the club after about 2.5 years. Joining me tonight, I've got former Bristol City blogger and owner of the moniker Southampton's most famous live-in Bristolian, and now resident of Canada just outside of Toronto. It's what's known as the voice of the West Country, Mr. Dan Waters in... I'm really proud of that.
Very impressed with the production value.
Yeah, we're not messing around, mate. It's been a long time since we've had you on the show. I think it's been about 8 years, hasn't it?
God, it's been a while, yeah.
So, how's it Canada side? How is it in the north? Have you seen a moose yet?
No meese in Ontario. Well, not this part of Ontario. It's getting colder. It's definitely getting colder.
Is it what Northerners refer to as big coat weather?
It is definitely big coat weather. Not the biggest coat weather yet, though.
What does it get like? Get bigger. I mean, I was going to say, what does it get like?
20, 25.
Why would you even go there? That's absolutely mental.
I have zero answer for that, mate. Zero answer.
So, listen, Dan, we've got you on because the Bristol City podcast that's still going gave us the cold shoulder. So I thought I'd delve into the black book and get you on, and we can talk about Bristol City. Now, I'm going to start early because obviously I mentioned it in the intro. Nigel Pearson's not long since left. It's going to be your first game without him, but I just need to read something because I found this genuinely lovely, and it's Pearson's departure note on what's now known as X, and it says, "Dear Bristol City family, I'd like to thank you for the fans for the patience during the difficult period when COVID and changes have tested your resolve. I've been made so welcome in Bristol and the beautiful county of North Somerset, a place I simply adore." And then it goes on for about another 4 or 5 tweets talking about what an amazing time he's had in, you and I have been out for a few beers in that part of the country, and it is amazing. But there was a few responses to it that were quite sad to see him go. Now, you and I obviously have spoke over the years since Pearson's taken charge, and I was under the impression it was a little bit moribund, as it were.
Well, I think he was certainly the most popular manager we've had for a long while. I think even Steve Cottrell was a little bit more divisive. It seems like most of the fans were well behind him and and from day one. Now, I have my own kind of problems with Nigel Pearson. I certainly don't think he deserved what happened this week, and I 100% think that the statement they put out was disingenuous, to say the least. To say that it was results, 100%. To say that it was results based, mention promotion. Like, come on, you can't sell your best player for 25 million quid and not spend any of it and say you want to get promotion. Was Alex Scott always going to go? Absolutely. Could we have invested some of that money? 100%, and we should have done. And I think so. To say that it was results based just isn't the reality of the situation.
Well, we've spoken before, you and I, about your chairman and the legacy that is building up around Bristol sport in general, especially around Ashton Gate, and it's left Rovers in the dirt, as it were, and it's impressive. I mean, we've all seen the meme of the people cheering in that pizza bar that we've been in, screaming at the big screen for England and stuff like that. It's everywhere. It's become quite a huge part of the city itself as the club. But some of the comments that were on the back of Pearson's resignation letter, as it were, or his, as you say, disingenuous letter to the fans, A few were sad to see him go, saying that it was a tumultuous time for Bristol City.
So just going to one thing. When I was talking about the statement, I meant the statement that came from the club rather than
Oh,
Pearson.
right. I was going to say.
Pearson's I thought was definitely what he feels. I think North Somerset isn't where Bristol is, but that's where he lives. And I think it's hard not to fall in love with that part of the world when you're there. So that I 100% think he was that was from the heart. It was the club statement that was the one that really kind of got to me and a lot of other City fans.
Oh, really? So you don't think he got many friends at the club? Because I mean, Pearson is renowned for being a bit straight talking, as Wednesday fans will know. I mean, do you feel like there's been a bit of pushback on not spending the Alex Scott money?
I think it's less that. I think it was more his personal situation. I'm sure he would have loved to have some of the £25 million that we got for Alex Scott, but it was more, he mentioned a few times that he was out of contract in the summer and there have been no talks. And I think he felt he deserved to be in those, in the position where he should be offered something, whether it be on increased terms or I think just the length of time would have been the key thing for him. He, in terms of what he's done for the club, I don't think you can dispute that he did deserve to go on and potentially get a new contract. On the field, things are a mixed bag, but they're stable at the very least. He was there when our former CEO departed to Ipswich. I'm sure Ipswich fans are absolutely loving him right now.
Yeah, he's done a right old job there, hasn't he?
Wait until it gets. Wait until the decline happens. Like it's all rainbows and butterflies now. And I'm sure. I know I don't look at Ipswich's stuff, but I'm sure he is everywhere. When the going gets tough, you won't find him. You won't find him for interviews. You won't. He wants to be the club. And Pearson was there for that. Was at the back end of it at least, and was instrumental in kind of picking the club up and having the academy be at the forefront of everything that we do. So yeah, he brought stability, and yet hasn't been rewarded for it.
Interesting, because I honestly, I must admit, it came out of, because like I said, my knowledge of Bristol City comes a lot from yourself, talking back and forth about the championship and stuff like that. And I know he had a bit of a, how would you put the start? Very much kind of industrial, as it were. Very
it was uninspired.
It
was very uninspired. I thought one of my issues with Nigel Pearson is, I think sometimes he is too blunt at times when he could potentially be a little bit more positive around things. That's not to say that, you shouldn't tell it how it is and you shouldn't be realistic. But I think for me, there was a time where he was talking about us conceding goals too easily and being unorganized. And my first response to that is, well, that's your job, pal. Your job is to organize them. And for me, that's kind of lowest common denominator stuff. That's not you, that's you picking up a group of 20, 25 lads and saying, right, we right now we might not be able to necessarily play the way I want to play. So right now we're going to be organized. We're going to be tough to beat. We're going to be, we're not going to ship easy goals from set pieces. None of that happened. So for him to then go on 6-minute rants on BBC Radio Bristol, where he's irritated, which is his favourite word, that to me was irritating. I'm like, that's that's your job is to do that. Ultimately, the players go out on the pitch and they deliver or not deliver. But if you've given them instructions that are clear, concise, that they can get on board with, that they can buy into, I feel like those things get cut out and you can build from there.
So, in terms of going forward, then, what names have you had in the mix? Have you had the same old shit that comes out every year, go round and round? Has Gary Megson been mentioned? Because he seems
Gary
to get
Megson has not been
mentioned.
Thank God. I feel like he only gets mentioned with clubs that he played for or has managed. Luckily, we're not one of those. Honestly, it's just an uninspiring list. And the thing for me is, if you're going to dip into the Championship managerial merry-go-round, we probably had the best one.
Yeah.
We probably had one of the elite names of those who can manage in the Championship.
Oh, I was jealous as shit when you got him. I was because we had Gary Monk at the time, and I was like, oh, because ironically, he might end up at your gaff. Actually, he seems to be in that type of ilk, as it were. Well, I wouldn't wish that on you, mate.
I guess the list of people that I don't want is a much lengthier one than the list of names that I would be happy with. I think it's kind of in vogue right now, and I think Wednesday have gone down the same route of finding, early 30s European manager or head coach who has, has worked for some big names and presumably soaked up all they can from those individuals, and it doesn't always work. No. But then it also doesn't always work getting somebody who's got 2 or 3 promotions from the Championship or has predominantly managed in the Premiership.
Well, this is it. One name that sticks out is probably Chris Wilder, who's probably on that, who you'd say is on that merry-go-round. And his name gets mentioned a lot, obviously, with Sheffield United because of the success he had there. And given Sheffield United's, lack of prowess in the Premier League. I mean, he's one of those no-nonsense managers who wants to be the manager as opposed to the head coach, that type of thing. Do you feel like that might be a step forward, or would you prefer to look at early 30s European manager who's just going to concentrate on the football?
Well, it's funny you should say the distinction between head coach and manager, because the club have been very clear in saying that they want a head coach. Even in the statement on the website when Pearson left, it identified Nigel Pearson as the manager and then said the search for a head coach will begin. So with Chris Wilder, I think that something like that rules him out immediately. It's like I feel like the club have backed themselves into a corner a little bit, because you've got John Lansdowne, who is intensely unpopular. The kind of nepo baby chairman that should have chairman.
Don't bring your chairman woes here, Mr. Bristolian.
Well, but should your qualification for a chairmanship be that you were sired by the owner?
Yeah.
No. It should not. It should that you should have qualifications. Being around the club since you're a kid, it ain't it. No. But he's not an impressive man either, to be honest. He did once hold a door open for me though, so he's polite at the very least.
So jot that down.
Yeah, so I mean, well, what do you want? But he has come out and said we want to attack, we want to be on the front foot, we want to press. And then Brian Tinian, our newly appointed technical director, who's been around the club for years, failed as a manager with us, parroted the same thing. And the first thing I thought to myself is, okay, when you interview people now, what do you think they're going to say? They're going to sit across the table from me and go, right, well, I want to play on the front foot. We're going to play attacking football. We're going to press. Ain't that simple? I don't know if you're allowed to drop F-bombs, but I nearly did then.
I feel like there's probably the comments that I get on YouTube are very much about the language I use, especially from the new sponsors that I've got now. So I'm trying to curb it. I'm trying not to C-bomb a lot. The rest of it seems to be fair game. So you're all right for a bit.
Well, I'll do my best for your sponsors. But yeah, there's not going to be any diversity in the interview process now. It's going to be people who desperately want a fairly decent championship job. They're going to parrot what they've heard. It isn't that simple. Do we have the personnel to do that? Can we play the way that everybody wants to play like that? Everybody wants the kind of Klopp, Guardiola, win the ball back within 8 seconds or whatever it is. The reality is we're a middling championship side with the players that we've got. I would want somebody to come in with a forensic analysis of the players that we've got, saying this is what I want to. This is the way we're going to play with the players we've got. This is what I want to do in the future. This is my 3-year, 5-year timeline. Safe in the knowledge that most managers don't get to 3 or 5 years. Yeah. But you're not going to get that. You're going to get people come in and they'll be like, "Yeah, great idea. Press. Yeah, let's press.
Pressing.
Whether you can do it or not." So we've just like the favourite this morning with the bookies was Frank Lampard, which isn't happening. That's classic manipulation of by the bookies. John Eustace is one of the favourites. I know very, very little about him post playing for Coventry in the Premier League about 25 years ago. Gary Rowett, couldn't tell you the way his teams play. I mean, it's just so uninspiring.
we've been out of the league for a couple of years, mate. This is all new to us. Apparently, John Eustace is a really good manager, and then everybody's unhappy that he's gone, and we're like, "What's happening? I don't know what's going on."
Right, but he is kind of when he got fired, there were most Birmingham fans said wasn't deserved, but on the flip side, I don't think they were devastated either.
Right,
and this goes back to the kind of owner debate. They've got new owners. Tom Brady is now involved. They want that Hollywood. They want the Wrexham story. They want Hollywood. Wayne Rooney is about as Hollywood as it gets for a manager who's going to take a championship job.
Mm-hmm.
We've had the same local owners for over 20 years. Be careful what you wish for. Like, yeah, okay, we fired Pearson this week, but we've never been in the Premier League. Bristol's the biggest city in the country, never to have a Premier League team. Now, we were in the top flight, but not in the Premier League years. We could easily be in that shopping window for, the billionaires looking for a vanity project. I don't think there's any longevity in that. Can you see Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney being Wrexham owners in 20 years?
No, I feel like it's got it's got a great story behind it, and look at us bringing little old Wrexham to it. But the attitude towards them starting to shift a little bit, isn't it? All of a sudden they're like, "Can you fuck off? Can you just
wait till they start losing?
You're ruining it." Well, in it,
right? Wait till they'll go to League One. They'll find the step up probably more difficult than they thought, and that's not to say they'll get promotion this year. But there's going to be some tough times. And then we'll see if they're in it for the long haul. Now, they seem to be very invested in that community as well, which is great. Tom Brady probably ain't. I think JJ Watt is involved in Burnley. Can't imagine that he's, again, he seems fairly invested as an individual, but he'll probably get bored. I mean, who wants to go to Burnley?
I was going to say, it's not like they're going to Showbiz place. It's not like they're getting like somewhere in London, like like on the outskirts, like Leighton Orient or somewhere like that, to turn it into like a London club and stuff like that. No, they're gonna Birmingham, who've just been shown their ass for about 20 years now. They're up and down like a pair of kangaroos in the mating season, and bloody Wrexham that was only famous for that pissed up bloke bootlegger on the interwebs. I wonder if they've met. I wonder if Mac and Deadpool have met bootlegger. Can you imagine? And he just pissed himself. All right, lads. You know what I mean? but anyway. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
They watched Sunderland Till I Die.
Sorry, I lost you there on the audio, Dan. I've lost you on the audio. My apologies. Try again. How did it come about?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
So Rob McElhenney watched Sunderland Till I Die on Netflix.
And that's it?
And fell in love with the kind of community element that, because he's from Philadelphia and he felt that that married up quite nicely. I'm veering wildly off topic now. What I'm getting at was, be careful what you wish for when it comes to your owners, because I don't want, there's so many billionaire sports owners in the US, and it's a totally different beast. Yeah. You can't just say, okay, we're gonna trade away all our good players, wait some high draft picks. You can't do that because you'll get relegated.
Yeah,
it's totally different. You have to keep them sustained.
My favorite was I think there was an interview with Deadpool where he kind of with beautiful Ryan, and he goes, "It's so much money." I don't think he understood how much it was. But anyway, let's get back to Bristol City anyway. So, tell me how your season's panning out. I mean, it's kind of lower than average, right? I mean, where are you now? 16, something like that.
I think we're 14th.
Oh, right.
Bang average, to be honest with you. And you wouldn't expect anything else. I think the money that has been invested has been, reasonably well invested. But I do think that we have the same issues that we've had for such a long time. Like, I think I've been a City supporter for 28 years now. In that time, I think we've had 5 or 6 20-goal league goal scorers. And all of those, I think, are one season each. Right. We don't put the ball in the back of the net in the numbers that you would expect for a side that is looking up, and we never seem to address that. We got 22 out of Vyman off the wing the other year. Naki Wells has been a expensive kind of experiment that hasn't really worked. He's in and out of the team. He's not scoring at the rate you would expect of a £5 million striker.
Bristol City signing players for £5 million. Did you ever think you were going to see it?
No.
I remember you were incredulous that you'd spent £1 million on Lee Trundle when I first met you. You were like, £1 million? Like that was
because that's a shit ton of money.
Yeah,
you know, that's such a lot of money for a team. And we were, you know, we've traditionally spent more than our revenue just in wages, and then we've expected Steve Lansdowne to prop the entire thing up. It was always going to come to a head. He was always going to decide that he didn't want to do that, but he did it fairly. He didn't just withdraw his money. He invested in the academy and the training facilities, and now is expecting us to churn out players. And in the last 5 years, that's all we've done. That's our identity is we take local and local-ish lads and we turn them into vast profits. Joe Bryan, Bobby Reed, Lloyd Kelly this morning. I saw Fabrizio Romano tweet about him going to AC Milan.
who the fuck is Bristol City? But listen, talking about the upcoming game, I think it was Cardiff. You know, lost 2-0 in what's a big fixture for you, isn't it? And this was your starting lineup. Are we due to see a similar sort of affair?
I mean, it depends on injuries. The 17-year-old James, I wouldn't expect him to play too much. You know, at the start of the season, it looked like we were flush with right backs. Kane Wilson moved on, and Rob McCrory we haven't seen yet. It'll probably be similar. I do think, you know, I just said that we invested money quite well. Actually, looking at that, Harry Cornick, I'm not really sure what that was all about. Mehmeti was supposed to be the maverick, and he's barely on the pitch. And I think he's the kind of player that you need him to get on the ball. You need him to do something and get confidence. You need to stick with him through the tough times and hope he plays through it. That hasn't happened.
Is there anybody there that we should be a bit wary of then? Is it Weimann?
No, I wouldn't say he's bang out of form. He wasn't great last year either. I think Sam Bell could be one of those players that ends up going for a decent amount of money. The one thing I will say is looking at that, you know, you've got Bell from the academy, O'Leary from the academy, Prings from the academy. We've got Tommy Conway yet to come back, Zach Viner still to come back. Both of those are academy players. You know, those are the ones genuinely that are our best players, are our most effective players.
Well,
that was a makeshift lineup.
But it's nice that you're churning players out, though, Dan. I mean, that you know because we find with players such as Liam Palmer that we've got who's come through the academy system and he's been with us for about 13 years. You have a sense of they belong to you a little bit,
right?
But I feel like with you guys, they don't stick around long enough because that's essentially what your club is, right? You make them
we sell them to Bournemouth.
Money off them. Yeah, 25 million quid though, right? I mean, was he that much of a loss when you flogged him on?
Alex Scott, what a player! What a player! Like probably the best player I've seen in a City shirt. Put it this way, if Calvin Phillips can play for England, Alex Scott can play for England. And I'm not saying that from a kind of City tinted glasses. The kid on the ball is just phenomenal. He's just so comfortable, and I think going up to the Premier League, he's going to find that there is that. I don't want to say that extra bit of space, but there's not somebody ready to chop you in half in the same way as there often is in the Championship. He's an incredible player to watch. He's never going to score 15 goals a season. He's probably not going to chip in with 10, 15 assists either. What he will do is break the lines beautifully. He can play a real pass. Just a great footballer to watch. So calm on the ball.
He ain't there no more, so I'm all right with that. We had Southampton first game of the season, and we're coming up against these players going, shit. And then you've got Ward Prowse there, who I think that the following week they turned down a 35 million quid bid for and sold him for 40 to West Ham. And you're like, what is this? What is this world?
And he's been great as well. I think that shows the levels. The difference in levels between. Look at what Leicester are doing. They're the best Championship team.
Since Newcastle in 2009-10, like they.
I think they're better than them. I can't believe they got relegated, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, the level between even where we're at, sat, basically mid-table, and the team's genuinely fine for promotion, I think is just going to grow and grow and grow, particularly with parachute payments and all that kind of stuff. But the thing is, but as like, middling and lower table teams in the Championship, we do have a fair few teams that we can look at and say, well, they haven't chucked money at it. Teams, Luton being the key example, how sustainable that is debatable. But, Swansea went up without spending a bunch of money. Okay, they did come down, but there, you can get there without just chucking money at it. Leicester are doing the opposite. They've got high-profile, high-salary players.
Well, you and I have, we have the inimitable, I was going to say badge of honour for watching both of our teams lose 1-0 against Hull at Wembley in the ultimate playoff final. Like, you know what I mean? So, I mean that the whole City one there, it was indicative that football can win overall, depending of that you don't have to chuck money at it, even though we did. So, and
we tried with Lee Johnson. We tried, and I think going back very briefly to the kind of managerial kind of the projects that we've had. Steve Lansdowne is very fond of people he already knows. He sacked Danny Wilson for Brian Tinian. He promoted Dean Holden. He promoted Keith Millen when he probably shouldn't have done. Lee Johnson he knew for years, and none of them have worked. None of them have worked. Lee Johnson got more backing than I'd say. Probably spent more money than probably the rest of our managers in our history. Absolutely. £8 million on Thomas Callas. Well, he's not exactly setting the world alight, is he? Now, I tell you what. Listen, let's before we've wrapped this up, then let's. What how do you think it's going to go? I mean, we've just got our first W of the season. You've got no gaffer on one hand. On the other hand, we're bloody rubbish, and you're not having the worst season in the world. Like, you know what I mean? So, I mean, it's one of them games that could go anywhere, right? Yeah, I honestly couldn't tell you. I think there'll probably be a hangover from the Pearson firing, because whatever else, the team seemed to be right behind him. They seem to really enjoy playing for him.
Who's taking charge? Is it going to be his old number 2 or
Curtis Fleming?
Oh, Curtis Fleming.
Yeah, who I had until he rocked up at our place. I had no idea he was still in the game, if I'm honest.
Well, we had Adriano Basso as our goalkeeper coach the last couple of seasons, and he's gone on to bigger, better things. So,
has he? Where's he gone?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you. As soon as they go,
he joined some anti-COVID Jesus cult. Can I say that?
Probably. That's what he does. That's what he does. Listen, I hope you have a good time watching it, but not too good. Ladies and gents, Dan Waters.